Good evening. This is Mary Ellen McKay, Chair of the City of Nashua Zoning Board of Adjustment, and this is the May 9th, 2023 Zoning Board meeting. This evening's meeting will be conducted in a hybrid format. The meeting is accessible in person in the third floor auditorium of Nashua City Hall, 229 Main Street, and via Zoom at the link posted in all public meeting agendas. Attendance via telephone is available using the Zoom connection details. Minutes of tonight's meeting, as well as audio and video recordings, will be available later at nashuanh.gov/agenda center. Please select Zoning Board of Adjustment. If anyone has a problem accessing the meeting, please call 603-589-3056 and they will help you connect. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting via the methods mentioned above, the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. The chair is in control of the proceedings and calls upon all who wish to speak in order as their raised hands are observed. The board follows the meeting protocols and procedures identified in its bylaws. The applicant will present their case for 15 minutes, followed by questions by the board. Next, persons wishing to speak in favor or with questions or opposition will be asked to speak for up to 5 minutes. If there are questions or opposition, the applicant will have 5 minutes to present a response. Finally, one and only one person with questions or an opposition will be permitted to speak again before the board deliberates and determines an outcome. A timer is used to manage speaking time. Kate Poirier, our zoning board coordinator, will notify us when 1 minute is remaining and again when the speaker's time has expired. If you are participating by Zoom and wish to speak when public input is requested, please use the raise hand option, which can be found under reactions on a computer, or the more menu on a phone. The chair will call you in turn. Please use the lower hand option when you have completed your questions and or comments. Please mute your microphone until called on to speak. Note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call. Tonight we will be hearing requests for deviation from the Nashua Zoning Code in the form of applications for variances. A variance is a request that seeks permission for something that the ordinance does not permit. Variances also have 5 points of law to be met. Per the City of Nashua bylaws and State of New Hampshire revised statutes, a minimum of 3 or more affirmative votes are required to approve any application. In addition, this board will hear all scheduled cases if a quorum of 3 voting board members is present at this meeting. Any citizen has the right to contest the decision that this board makes. Should we render a decision that you believe is in error, you have the right to request a rehearing. A written rehearing request must be received by the City of Nashua Planning Department within 30 calendar days from the date of decision. Should this board not grant a rehearing request, you can file an appeal directly to the New Hampshire Superior Court. Please contact Mr. Falk of the Planning Department for more information. For this meeting, we have the following board members in attendance. We have myself, Mary Ellen McKay, as chair. We have Mr. Rob Shaw as vice chair, Mr. J.P. Boucher as clerk, and Mr. Jack Currier, who is on Zoom. We also have Mr. Jay Minkera, Mr. Josh Neely, and Ms. Estafia Boris, who is also on Zoom, and they are alternates. We will start the and we have Mr. Carter Falk, our Deputy Planning Manager, and Ms. Kate Poirier, our Zoning Coordinator, who are also present with us this evening. We will start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. For any member who is participating by Zoom, please also state whether there is anyone in the room with you, which is required under the right to know law, and state your reason for not attending. Mr. Shaw.
Mr. Shaw is present.
Mr. Boucher.
Present.
Mr. Currier. Is he there?
He's still on mute.
Sorry, let me try that again. This is Mr. Currier. I'm present on Zoom, and I'm on Zoom because I'm on a pre-planned trip away from Nashua this evening.
Thank you.
There's no one in the room with me.
Thank you. Mr. Minkera.
Present.
Mr. Neely.
Present.
Ms. Boras.
Estafia Boris present. I was delayed in a business meeting. I apologize for being on Zoom, and there is no one in the room with me.
Thank you. Mr. Falk, are there any changes to our agenda this evening?
There are no changes.
Thank you. And because we have 3 regular members here, 1 regular member via Zoom, and we have 2 alternates present, we will be having one of the alternates vote in each case. And in the first case, Mr. Josh Neely will be the voting member. Now, the first case. Frank K. Excuse me, pardon me?
Manasian.
Thank you, sir. Manasian. And you want,
Shanli Wu is my wife.
and Shanley Wu.
She's not here today.
Okay, but you're listed as the owners, and when it started with the X, I really got confused, so I apologize. Owners, 23 Dickerman Street, sheet 119, lot 89, requesting the following variances from Land Use Code, section 190-16, table 16-3. 1, to encroach 1.2 feet into the 25-foot required rear yard setback, and 2, to encroach 3.5 feet into the 10-foot required right side yard setback. Both request to construct an attached 36 by 20 one-story garage addition. This is in the RA zone in Ward 7. And is there someone here to present this case?
That'd be me.
Okay. Please step up, sir, to the mic, state your name and address for the record, because they need that for
Certainly.
the audio.
My name is Frank Manasian. I reside at 23 Dickerman Street, Nashua, New Hampshire. I've been there since 2000, approximately December 2000.
Well, the floor is yours, sir.
It's a simple request. I don't think I need 15 minutes. My home, I'm an aircraft mechanic with Delta Airlines, and I've always dreamed of having a larger garage, because the garage I have in right now, when my wife and I pull up to the garage and it's pouring raining outside, she has to get out first, because we cannot physically open the doors to our cars, to a car in the garage. It's that narrow, and even when I get out of my door after pulling the car all the way over to the right-hand side, I still have a little bump strip there so I don't keep chipping the paint on the side of my door. And I love to work on my automobiles. I love to tinker and fix things. Being an aircraft mechanic, it's my nature. I've saved myself countless thousands of dollars over my lifetime doing this thing. And not getting emotional, but my mother passed recently. And the funds she left behind will give me the opportunity to do this. And I've always dreamed, and if I do this, if you guys give me the permission, and ladies, I am gonna put a huge plaque on the back. And that's essentially all. I've spoken to my, spoken to my neighbors at length. Angel and Sharon Rivera have just sold their house, so they're not there any longer, but they've all said they have no problem with it. We're very close, and I've exhaustively gone over the plans. I've shown them the plans drawn up by my friend Don Anderson. All of them are approved of that. It will certainly look and represent the neighborhood. And if you go up Dickerman Street, you can see that called the sitback of other houses is either right on the line, some of them are a couple of feet to the line, so it won't change the character of the neighborhood at all. And anybody who has a complaint to my street that says we want this change, we will definitely have a conversation. I'll try to accommodate them. But I would hope that you guys grant me the permission to build the Terry Manasian garage. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you. Well, just a minute. I want to see if anyone on the board has a question for you, sir.
Sure. Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions? Does Mr. Shaw?
So are you going to have 2 driveways?
Yes, sir, and I'm aware that the total amount of driveway space is 25 feet. So the existing driveway, the existing driveway, I think is only about 12 or 13 feet. And I'd like to actually narrow that down and probably, what would you think, about 12 feet? 12 to 13 feet for the new driveway.
It's 24 in total. Is the
24 in
limit
total,
without a
yeah.
variance, so.
All right. So
you wanna keep that in
whatever it
mind.
requires, that's what
Okay.
we will conform to.
And you are planning on keeping the original garage and?
Yeah, my wife is a gardener, and yeah, it'd be a good place for her to keep her shovels and things like that, so.
It also looks like you've already basically, you're only doing a single-car garage on that side also, but it's double deep, right?
Correct.
So it seems that you can't probably do much less than this encroachment. Did you explore, was there any way to do even less encroachment, or, kind of, just, it often helps us understand.
So what I
where
did
the
was,
limit
I went
for you.
to a number of my friends who all have garages. I mean, I'm friends of many aircraft mechanics. A lot of guys have professional lifts in their garage, and I mean, they're vast. Other guys have more modest means, but most of them are double size. To really be effective and safe, I work for Delta Airlines, it's safety, safety, safety. Room, lighting is imperative. So when Don and I sat down and I discussed with him what I really wanted, and especially since I'm starting to get older, I'm 60, getting a little arthritic, I want to make sure that I can bend safely, move safely, and that's the reason why we came up with the dimensions we did. You go smaller, it starts getting, I know it sounds weird, but you go 6 inches smaller, it starts getting a little bit more tighter, harder to move in. I'm sure that I'll probably put tooling cabinets and things like that in there, and I want, like I said, I want it to be a showplace. I want to, when people drive by, say, wow, that looks nice. And so, right, the dimensions will really haggle over by me and Don, because I know I don't have a huge yard. And I wanted to try to preserve the yard, yet give me enough working space to do what I had to do.
And just one more item. You're pretty much up at your property line on the other side, or?
Yeah, it's right on the other. I'm not sure when the house was built. I think the house was built in 1940, 41.
So you have nowhere to go on that side?
Correct. There's nowhere. I would love to have done that. I would love to have just leveled the garage and gone on that side, but it's not practical. It's not practical.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
Yeah, I'm going to, but I wanted to make sure everybody here had the
Yeah,
option
I have a
first.
question.
Okay.
Sure. So,
Mr. Courier.
Mr. Curry, can I help you?
Yeah, just to make sure I have it right, on your proposed plan, if this were approved, the existing garage, which is on the left side of your house, would be converted to like a shed that kind of you enter from the back?
It's
Is
not-
that what I'm seeing on the plans?
I'm sorry, sir. Yeah, I would like, we're again, that's kind of a work and play, but yes, we would like to put double doors on there. Again, through the blessings of my mother, I was able to buy my dream car, which is a Mustang, and I keep that in the car. I'm going to keep that in that side of the garage over the winter. And so even though you have to shovel it in there, but it'll preserve the car, keep it out of the snow. That's the other thing about the new garage. As I get older, slipping and falling, oh my God, there's a little downward slope on my current garage, and I've slipped on that thing a countless number of times. And, we're going to make the driveway a little bit more level, so as I get older and my wife gets older, we'll be safer. But yes, sir, we'd like to keep the garage pretty much just as it is right now. I'll probably put some shelving up and things like that in there so she can put her spades and whatever other gardening tools in there. But yeah, it'll maintain the same appearance and function as it has now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, sir. Anything else?
Ms. Boraz, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay,
Thank
thank
you,
you.
ma'am.
Then, no further questions here. You may sit, you can stand. I'm going to ask if there's anybody here who wants to speak in favor of this application. Is there anybody on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here who would like to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? And is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Neely.
I'm generally in favor of this application. I think the applicant did a good job explaining what he's trying to do. As we know from the age of some of the houses in that neighborhood, he is challenged by some of the dimensions, especially of that shed, the current shed. Excuse me, not the shed, what will become the shed, but the current garage. The design of the garage really, as he spoke to his safety inside the garage and the fact that it's barely going to go into that back area, I think he made a great case for it. I do appreciate that they took into account that the 2 driveways is a maximum 24 feet. So we're not looking for another variance. So really, I'm in favor of this for all of those reasons.
Thank you. Mr. Boucher?
I'm also in favor of the application. Again, there is a unique shape to the property on the both side of the garage.
Oh, Mr. Boucher, your mic.
I'm sorry. Again, I'm in favor of the application. I was stating that there is a unique shape to the property on the proposed side of the new garage. And again, as the applicant explained, there is a narrow garage that's pretty much up on the property line. So there isn't really any other feasible method to do that, to expand. And again, certainly maybe could have gone backwards, back in a 2-car deep in the existing garage, but it doesn't solve the width problem, the issue with access to the garage. So in general, I'm in favor of the application.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Minkara?
I am in favor of the application. I struggled a little bit with it, but I think the applicant did a very good job of explaining the rationale for it. In particular, the width, my initial thinking was it could be narrower. I totally appreciate that the existing garage is borderline not functional. The desire to have a 2-car garage, I think, is reasonable in terms of the depth, and I do think, again, to Mr. Boucher's point, but for that jog on the property, he wouldn't need to be here for that sideline. So there's definitely something about the property that I think distinguishes it. So overall, I think the use is reasonable, and I definitely, so I support the variance for all those reasons.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw?
Likewise, I'm in support. I guess just even maybe to further amplify the thing about the jog and the special kind of nature of that site. I mean, it appears that the applicant's done a good job of pushing the garage pretty far back already relative to the house. And clearly, there could probably be another half a foot or a foot maybe to be garnered by taking it back, the structure another 6 feet or 8 feet or whatever, without doing the math. But it's already set, at least halfway back on the house as it is. So I think reasonable effort's been made in that regard as well. So I think, this is, I think, to accomplish this structure, I think this is quite a reasonable proposal.
Thank you. Mr. Courier?
Yeah, just, I share the same thoughts as my colleagues. I just wanted to throw out a little more, like a lot of times we've seen requests for really big overages into the side yard setback for a 2-car garage. It's 2 cars wide. Certainly that's, I think, nicer than one that's 1 car wide and 2 car deep. And I think that's part of the kind of the concession of design that's already in this plan is, to Mr. Shaw's question, to what has been done to try to minimize a variance request, just the fact that it is 2 cars deep and 1 car wide is I see that as a concession, and I'd just like to have that on record, and I'm in support of the application as presented.
Thank you very much. Ms. Boras?
I'm also in support of the application for all of the reasons already stated by my colleagues.
Thank you. Thank you. And myself, Mary Ellen McKay, I also support the application based on all the aforementioned conversation to do with the concessions and the topography of the land. Would somebody care to make a motion? Thank you, Mr. Shaw.
I'll make a motion on behalf of the owners, Frank K. Manasian and Zhengli Wu, owners at 23 Dickerman Street, sheet 119, lot 89. The request is for the following variances from Land Use Code Section 190-16, Table 16-3. First one is to encroach 1.2 feet into the 25-foot required rear yard setback, and secondly, to encroach 3.5 feet into the 10-foot required right side yard setback. Both requests are to construct an attached 36-foot by 20-foot, 1-story garage addition. This is in the RA zone. The variance is needed for the applicant's proposed use of the property, given the special conditions of the property. It's been noted that the existing very limited-sized garage is all but or essentially on the property line on the left side of the property. And there is an extra angle, kind of two-sided jog nature of the right side of the property as well, such that the placement of the garage to minimize setback encroachment is placed where it is. We didn't talk much significantly about this, but I would further note that there is a little bit of encroachment into the back rear yard setback, so it seems to be placed about as, you know, at least significantly impacting the encroachments needed to satisfy the structure. It's within the spirit and intent of the ordinance. There's no indication of any adverse effects on surrounding parcel property values. It's not contrary to public interest, and substantial justice will be served. Therefore, I've moved again to approve this area variance.
Thank you, Mr. Neely, for your second. Mr. Neely, how do you vote?
Mr. Neely votes in favor.
Mr. Boucher?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Mr. Shaw?
Mr. Shaw votes in favor.
Mr. Courier?
Mr. Courier votes in favor.
And myself, Mary Ellen McKay, I also vote in favor. Congratulations.
Thank you, too. I'll
Here.
appreciate it very much. We will
Here.
do everything in our power to make sure that it looks really nice, and if any of the neighbors have concern, I've asked them all to please come and talk to me during the proceeding construction. And again, thank you.
Well, your variance has been granted. However,
Yep.
any decision made by this board is subject to appeal by any member of the public, and they have 30 days with which to do so. Should you have any questions, comments, concerns, please re-refer back to either Mr. Carter Falk or Ms. Kate Poirier in the Planning Department, and they will help you. Again, congratulations. Thank you for your presentation, and good luck with your project, sir.
Thank you again very much. Please
You're
come
quite
and see it when it's done.
And I will move on to case number 2. And again, Mr. Minkara, you will be voting in this case. East Dunstable Properties LLC owner, John Forzier, applicant, 7 East Dunstable Road, sheet 109, lot 76, requesting the following variances. 1, from Land Use Code Section 190-17E1 to exceed maximum driveway width, 24 feet permitted, 36 feet requested for 2 driveways on Burnett Street, one at 24 feet wide, the other at 12 feet wide, and 2 from Land Use Code Section 190-209. C, to permit the construction of a driveway within 50 feet of the intersection of East Dunstable Road and Burnett Street, 27 feet proposed. RA Zone, Ward 6. Is there somebody here to present this application? If you will please approach the mic and state your name and address for the record.
My name's Jessica Forcier of 3 Chaucer Road with East Dunstable Properties, which is at 24 Merrimack Street, Nashua.
Thank you. The floor is yours.
Some of this is repeated from before, so I'm sorry, but some of it's also new. We currently own this lot with Lisa and her husband, Craig Lisa Adams, who's here with me today, are looking for us to build them a home here and live in it with their aunt. I think there's new people here, so I'll share what I said before. The variances that you just listed, the curb cut to exceed by 12 feet and to place the driveway less than 50 feet from the intersection. Due to several health concerns, which one has artificial discs in their neck, one has several herniated discs, and the other has had recent falls and severe arthritis in her knees, Lisa and Craig have requested that we build them a single-story home with a total curb cut of 36 feet, allowing each of them to be able to enter each of their garage bays directly. This style home and driveway positioning would accommodate the needs of their family best. A hardship exists for this lot due to it being situated on the corner of Burnett and East Dunstable, where it is a very narrow lot as well. Due to the lot, the home would need to face Burnett Street. Facing Burnett Street is that being one of the required front setbacks is 25 feet. Because it's a corner lot, it has to have 2 front setbacks, two fronts, and instead of just one. It's impossible for the driveway to fan out after the curb cut because it can't start fanning until it reaches the setback, which the house is right on the setback. So on a regular lot, this wouldn't be a concern. In the last meeting, a neighbor expressed that he and several other neighbors took issue with the driveway being proposed on East Dunstable and believed it was a safety concern. We're here today with a revised plan to put the driveways on Burnett Street instead. Granting this variance would not alter the character of the neighborhood nor diminish the values of the surrounding properties in any way. Also, the style of the home and driveways would fit in with the current homes on this and abutting streets. Currently, there are at least 9 other homes on East Dunstable that have multiple driveways, most being corner lots, but some are not, and with curb cuts totaling over 24 feet. I've got a list of examples. This one is on, the address is Main Street, but it's also on East Dunstable. 393 Main Street actually has 3 driveway curb cuts. 2 of them on East Dunstable, 1 on Main Street for a total of 50 feet of curb cut. 27 East Dunstable is on the corner, also corner lot, like this one. So in the same kind of position on the corner of Roy, has a driveway on both streets, on Roy and on East Dunstable, totaling over 40 feet of curb cut. 24 East Dunstable has a driveway on both Dane and East Dunstable. 30 has a driveway on Herrick and East Dunstable, totaling over 30 feet of curb cut. And also 32 East Dunstable, on the other corner of Herrick, has 2 driveways on each street and also is less than 25 feet from the intersection. 2 Roby's Drive is on the corner of East Dunstable and only 25 feet from the intersection. I could go on, because like I said, there's at least 9, if not more than that. So I think that granting these variances would be, sorry, losing my train. That's pretty much all I have to say, though, for right now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions of the applicant? Mr. Shaw?
I think some of this was covered at the last presentation, which I was not at, but
Okay.
reading the minutes, maybe I didn't fully comprehend it. But, so, I think it was established this is just a single-family home.
Yes.
With the intended 2 garages, right?
Yes.
So, is it still set up, though, in some fashion where the aunt is going to have more of a separate, like, ensuite space or whatever? It
It's
just
all
doesn't have a
combined
kitchen,
on
or
one
is it-
floor.
Okay. I
Yeah,
guess I'm
one
trying-
kitchen.
What I'm trying to understand is, why not have a 3-car garage on one end of the property with, I mean, it doesn't necessarily take care of the curb cut issue, to your point. And that's something that, but there's, I think one of the concerns from a aesthetic or even just a way this will appear is this is going to, as proposed to me, it's going to look a lot more like a, maybe a multi-unit or, duplex of
Yep.
some sort. And I also wanted to establish is, will there actually be an exterior door as well as the single bay garage on the right side as proposed?
Let me look at the revised plan, but I can say, yes, the way that it looks now, we believe wasn't as nice as it looked before. Several of the, like I said, corner lots have driveways on each side on the separate streets. It made more sense the way the initial plan was done for just the character of all the corner lots on that street and also for the homeowners. So, I mean, I guess I agree with you. Yes, it does look a little bit more like a 2-family now, but it was really just so that just to create a little bit of a divider for privacy. She's older than them. They're a couple. It's not like it's their child. It's not their child. It's their aunt. So that was the initial design that was done, and the issue that seemed to be the problem for the neighbors was the driveway on East Dunstable at the last hearing. So they tried to have it redone to accommodate those concerns. And then, let me just
So
look at the new
it does look
plan.
like there is an extra entrance, but I
Yeah.
think it's not front-facing as I read the plan. The other thing, though, that now that I look at this a little closer here, it looks like there is some sort of I'll call it, maybe it's a kitchenette or something, so I'm assuming maybe there isn't a stove and an oven?
No stove, no oven, nope.
Right, so, okay. I guess what,
Like a bar area is what I had seen on the last, yeah.
I guess.
Which is still on this one.
I must
like an
say, this
entertainment.
looks an awful lot like an accessory dwelling unit
Right, but it's not, and it's not separate, and there's not a wall separating them, and it's not. I mean, I get where you're saying that it looks like it. It looked better before. I get what you're saying, why you think it looks like that, but it's not what it is. They're not trying to have a 2-unit. They're not trying to have a separate accessory unit. They're just trying to, they need access to be able to help her, direct access. So it's not that at all.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Minkara.
So, in looking at the dimensions, and perhaps I'm wrong, it does appear that if you moved the building basically all the way over to the opposite setback line from East Dunstable, it appears as though you could meet the 50-foot distance for the second driveway. Did you consider a plan that would take the proposed dwelling unit further back on Burnett so that you didn't need that 50-foot variance?
I didn't believe that it would, but
I could be entirely wrong, but I'm seeing 26.1 feet on the East Dunstable side, and the distance from the house to the opposite property line is 36.3, and am I correct in that that's a 10-foot setback?
yes.
So that would
I
mean
believe
that you've
so.
got 26.3 feet on one side and 26.1 on the other. So pretty clearly, if you scooted this over, you could in fact have a second driveway. You wouldn't resolve the width issue, but you could have a second driveway that would in fact meet the 50 feet.
Yeah, it looks like it could be. I don't know what, I think that there was a hang-up with that there was a reason why they didn't draw it like that, but I'm not positive of what it is, so I'll have to double-check that.
Thank you.
Mr. Courier, did you want to ask a question?
Yes, thank you. You noticed my raised hand. Well, I guess to Ms. Forcier, I was part of the discussion at the previous meeting, and I guess it was, some of the discussion involved, certainly around getting the driveway off of East Dunstable. I guess I was a little surprised to see the less than 50 feet on Burnett Street, and some of the discussion was bouncing around, like what Mr. Shaw had alluded to, was like a 3-car garage, or have something like one driveway that services kind of 3 bays sort of thing, and that's, I guess it's not really a question, it's just what I had been thinking the design might have gone into, so I guess I'm just kind of not really have a question, just an observation then, and that's just observation. But so no question, but I'm just taking it all in. So thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Is there anyone else on Zoom? Ms. Boraz, did you have any questions?
Oh, I have no questions. I just want to hear what my other colleagues have to say. I was not at the last meeting.
Okay, thank you. Then, seeing there are no questions, I'm going to ask if there is anyone here to speak in favor of this application. Would you please come forward and state your name and address for the record?
My name is Lisa Adams. I live at 1465, Unit 1336, Hooksett, New Hampshire. I am hopefully the recipient of this home. I just wanted to reiterate the reason that we're doing this is to care for my aunt who has no other family, and she is really reluctant to move out of Nashua, so that's why we chose to do this. She lives in a raised ranch now. She can't do the stairs, so we're looking at the ranch-style home. She also is not that she can't cook, but is really just looking for some help with things like that. So she is going to be, to answer that question, she's going to be using our kitchen. We will be cooking and chopping and helping her with those things. She can do a lot of it for herself now, but we see kind of where the future is going. She has 2 siblings now with Alzheimer's, and We're just want to be proactive instead of reactive if something would happen to her. So that's what we were looking for. The reason the garage, is a little bit separated is that she insisted on giving herself a little bit of privacy and wanted us to have some privacy. So it was at her request that everything was kind of opposite. At opposite ends of the house. If you put the three the three garages together, somebody will have to walk through, and she wasn't as comfortable with that. Even though she would be coming into our kitchen, she just wanted that separation. So when we had come last time, it was recommended that, that East Dunstable was busy and that maybe it wouldn't be that safe for her. So we had the architects just switch the garage around to put the both driveways on that. We thought that was a fairly easy fix, and I'll be honest, inexpensive fix. Every time you make a change, it's cost, and we thought it would be a nice compromise. I don't think the house is still it's going to be very pretty. It's going to sit in the neighborhood and look, it's a very nice design. So I think it will bring value to the neighborhood. I grew up in Nashua, but I don't know the neighbors. I know the woman across the street is in favor of this. I don't know the other neighbors. To go have a discussion with them, how their feelings or thoughts on that. But I think that we made a nice compromise by putting the driveways on Burnett and addressing that safety issue that was brought up.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone on Zoom have any questions? I don't see any. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone here present who would like to speak in favor of this application? Okay. Is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here who would like to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? Please state your name and address, sir, for the record.
Yes. Good evening. My name is John Koutsis. I reside at 3 East Dunstable Road, along with my wife, Diane. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. As I understand it, this is a request for a single-family home. There really is no need for a newly built single-family home to have 2 driveways, especially when the main driveway is proposed at the maximum of 24 feet wide to begin with. I was going to keep this short as well, but also, I'm not sure, and I'm not sure if it's even relevant, but whether Mrs. Adams is going to be an owner or a tenant, but I'm not even sure that would matter. But anyway, moving on, I'm just going to address the points of law. So this request is not in the public interest in any way. A second driveway too close to the corner will only compound the confusion and hazard that already exists at the intersection of East Dunstable and Burnett Street. And as you heard in prior testimony, and I wasn't here for the last hearing, that there were lots of accidents in that spot. Well, I can testify firsthand. My wife's car was totaled at that intersection in 2019, and her car was deemed totaled, and she was lucky she didn't really get hurt. And there's been many, many more than that. So, and 2, the proposed use does not observe the spirit of the ordinance. In fact, it alters the character of the neighborhood. This really is a single-family neighborhood. It doesn't really have any duplexes or multifamily homes or many single-family homes. I know Ms. Forcia did cite some that have 2 driveways, but quite frankly, a lot of those I don't believe are legally approved driveways. And in this neighborhood, in this general area where this lot is, they're all beautiful single-family homes, and they all have fairly narrow driveways. So placing a second driveway close to the intersection of Burnett and East Dunstable definitely will be a threat to public safety and exacerbate a hazard that has been statistically proven to be far above the normal levels. 3, substantial justice would not be done as there is no need or hardship whatsoever for this request. As presented, this is a single-family home request. Single-family homes do not need 2 driveways, especially to say again that when the one proposes at a maximum width of 24 feet. And 4, the proposed use has the potential to diminish surrounding property values because it is out of character with the neighborhood surroundings. In this general area, all the homes are single-family and they have one legal driveway. Allowing 2 driveways on one new single-family parcel will give this single-family home a multifamily look and feel. And that's what I think is really out of character with the neighborhood. So the request before the ZBA, which you're here to rule on tonight, is for a single-family home. And again, single-family homes do not need 36 feet of driveway width, and certainly not with 2 driveways. So, 5, there are no special conditions that exist that literal enforcement of the ordinance results in unnecessary hardship. This is strictly, in my opinion, a wish list request that has nothing whatsoever to do with hardship in any way. Hardship should be a key consideration when granting a variance, and this request blatantly fails to meet that requirement. And to our neighborhood and to the public interest, this request fails to meet the basic thresholds of the 5 points of law that need to be satisfied to grant a variance. Thank you very much.
Does anyone have any questions? Mr. Neely?
So your fourth point, that there's a potential to diminish surrounding property values, where's that coming from? Do you have any documentation from any realtors? Are you just pulling that out of your
Well,
pocket?
I think just anecdotally, when you put 2 driveways in, one at 24 feet and one at 12 feet, to me, you're industrializing or commercializing the neighborhood. It's far out of character with the homes that are around them. And, you know, you always end up with lots more of everything when you do that in the neighborhood. So I do think it would diminish property values because of the fact that it is far out of character with all the existing homes in its general vicinity.
Oh, absolutely, you have follow-up?
So you're talking about no special conditions. You know, this applicant has been here 2 meetings in a row.
Correct.
And I'm going to guess you heard the last one. Were you on Zoom for the last one, or you read the transcripts?
No, but Cynthia,
the
I did
transcripts, you
read
know.
the transcript and I did watch the video.
So the applicant has talked about the fact they're taking a family member and they're trying to create a 1-story house so that she can stay in the neighborhood or stay in Nashua, and they have the ability to live a comfortable lifestyle. In which way is that? I mean, how would you describe that not being a special
Well,
condition?
I would say, quite frankly, by the law, I think that is irrelevant.
Explain to me why that's irrelevant.
I believe that the request should run with the land and not the request. If that was how we were going to rule on zoning issues, you'd have one person after another in here with a story like that to do it. And with this is not, usually when you have those, like the case that came before us tonight, that's an existing home. It was built long ago, and he had no other way of doing it. This is a brand-new home that really looks like a 2-family, and you're starting from scratch. There really is no need to do this. I don't see why, even in this case with her aunt, they wouldn't all live in one home where you could have one 3-car garage, which would, I think, proposed, which would look more in character. I mean, one 3-car garage with a 20-foot fan driveway would certainly meet that request. I mean, if they're all dining together and supposedly it only has one kitchen, I can't see where walking through a house to go to a garage, if the aunt still drives, is that much of an infringement on privacy if they're all living in one single-family home.
And thank you for answering these questions. I do
Thank you, sir.
appreciate
I-
it. My last question for
Sure.
you. So the applicant did provide about 9 addresses in your general area that have two driveways. So we can't say it's out of character to the neighborhood. How would you
Well, I
respond to
don't know
that?
how close all of those that she listed are, but I can tell you there are homes in the neighborhood that have, not that close to it, but that do have 2 driveways. But I think if you went and looked, you'll find that they're not all legal driveways and that have just been put in. And I could name you a couple, but I'm not going to because they're my neighbors that live pretty close. So that's why I mentioned legal when I wrote my letter, because I think that matters. I think a lot of things are getting overlooked. And why I'm here tonight is because I live very close to the city. I've lived in my home since 1985, and I grew up around the corner on Oakland Avenue. And I used to take the bus for elementary school right in front of 5 East Dunstable. I have been there a long time, and I do feel that the neighborhoods that are getting close to the core of the city, they need to be protected. And all of this little creep that's happening is affecting the city in some ways. I think we have rules, we have regulations, we have ordinances. I think we should just stick to them because there is no hardship, like I said here. This is a brand-new, beautiful building lot to build one beautiful single-family home, which is in character with a neighborhood. Certainly, we're not building single-family homes in these neighborhoods from scratch with 2 driveways anywhere. So I think it's a very bad precedent to set as well. But thank you for your time.
Does anyone else have any questions for the applicant? Does anyone on Zoom have any questions for the applicant, for the speaker right now? All right, there's no one on Zoom with any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there someone else?
Yes, please. I just got some handouts real quick.
And if you would please, sir, state your name and address for the record.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. I'm David Campbell. I live at 10 East Dunstable Road. Although I'm an attorney, I'm not here as an attorney tonight. I'm here as a neighbor and someone who's lived at that address for 35 years. I'm speaking on behalf of a couple of neighbors here. Larry Pratt is here. He and his wife Sonia are at 1 Eastman. Brian and Betty Monahan are at 9 East Dunstable. And Tom and Melissa Carrier. Tom is up on the screen. You can see his name up there. I'd like to go, if I could first with you, is go through this. I just gave away all my... So I'd just like to go through this to you. This is our immediate neighborhood. Number 7 is the lot in question. As you can see, it's a regular shaped lot. It's flat. I mean, it slips slowly down, but it's a blank slate. It's a normal rectangular lot. It's a corner lot. That in itself doesn't make any kind of hardship. Within 100 feet of this, there are 4 other corner lots. There's 10 East Dunstable Road, which is me. There's 1 Eastman, which is the Pratts. There's number 9, East Dunstable. And then down at the end, number 4, Burnett. That's brand new. That's 3 years old. And they have a 24-foot driveway. They have a much smaller lot. So just to orientate you as to what the character of the neighborhood is, I showed you all the driveways. I measured them myself, so they're off maybe a foot or 2, but they're all very close. So I show the cuts where they're located and the acreage of each of these lots. What's being proposed here, as far as the character of the neighborhood, we'll get into that. But I guess what I really want to do is bring it back to why we're here. There's not just one variance, there's 2. The other one hasn't been adequately addressed. But I do want to say that, I don't need to remind the board that an unnecessary hardship exists, and that's what they need to prove. It's owing to special conditions of the property that distinguish it from other properties in the area. I don't see where there's any special conditions to this property that in any way distinguish it from any other property in the area. It's a blank piece of paper. The fact that they're showing a plan and say, well, this doesn't work with what we're planning, that's not what a variance is all about. That's not what a hardship is all about. The fact that...
Excuse me, Mr. Campbell, could you get closer to the mic?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Or pull it?
Sure.
Thank you.
The fact that the shape of the fact that we need 2 driveways over 24 feet, and a 12-foot cut as well, in order to maximize the building footprint and the square footage on the lot is not a hardship. Inconvenience to the builder is not a hardship. And I think we have to come back to the standard that we're talking about. Is this in the spirit of the ordinance? Well, let's look at the second variance for a minute. The spirit of the ordinance is pretty clear. 50 feet is the variance. I mean, the zoning ordinance says this the minimum distance for a driveway cut from an intersection. That was not brought up willy-nilly. That's something that is in your zoning ordinance for protection of people who are driving around. And this is not your normal intersection. I want to really emphasize that. This intersection has had lots of really bad accidents that I've seen with my own eyes in the middle of the night, people taken out in ambulances, people that couldn't move their lower bodies. We just recently put up a pedestrian crossing that you push the button, have the yellow flashing light come on with the help of the mayor and the alderman. That was because we got kids coming across from one neighborhood to the other to go to the end of Eastman where Hayward's is. So this is a very congested intersection, including a bus station that stops right in front of my house at 10 East Dunstable. And it stops there maybe, I don't know, 8, 9 times a day. So with all that going on, now we're being asked to put a driveway closer to the intersection, within the 50 feet. I think just on that alone, this should be denied, because that is, there's no justification for it, nor was any given, by the way, by the applicant, why that is okay. And I can give you, and I have given you, I hope, some reasons why it isn't okay. Substantial justice will be done to the property owner by granting the variance. Well, again.
Mr. Campbell,
Yes.
excuse me, you've got 41 seconds.
All right. Well, I think I've covered most of it. I just don't think that the end use is important as much as what the character of the neighborhood is. Substantial justice doesn't mean to the end user. It means to the neighborhood, the public interest. And I think that covers it. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone on Zoom? Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Neely.
Counselor, if my memory serves me correct, last time you were here, your main push was to not have a driveway on East Dunstable, and I do believe that Mr. Boucher reminded you that these folks, by law, could have a 12-foot entrance on East Dunstable and a 12-foot on Burnett. And these folks have certainly moved the driveway around the corner to Burnett. And so are you, if these folks were to just get rid of that 12-foot close to the intersection, is that really what you're getting to in your 5 minutes you just had there? You really just want that 12-foot that's close to the intersection of Burnett and East Dunstable not to exist, and to just go with the 24 feet that's further in?
I'm certainly not in a position to deny them the 24-foot
Right.
driveway. But the 12-foot driveway went around the corner. We said it was unsafe on East Dunstable, more unsafe, I will agree. But bringing it around the corner and not bringing it back 50 feet does not improve the situation, does not improve the hazard, does not improve the safety. And in and of itself, where I didn't hear any arguments from the applicant on why that met this criteria of hardship, public benefit, I didn't hear anything. So I think that's the issue.
Does anyone on Zoom have any questions? I can't see if Jack has his hand. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Campbell.
Thank you very much.
Is
Thank you.
there anyone here present who would like to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? Okay, seeing none, then is there anyone on Zoom who would like to speak with questions, comments, concerns, or opposition to this application? Seeing none, the applicant now has 5 minutes to respond to the comments that were made. Once that happens, all who are in opposition, only one can come and speak, and they have 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes after the applicant.
Okay, so to the first gentleman, like I stated initially, the Adams, they're going to be owners. The only reason they're not owners right now is they're trying to get their plans approved. So every time that we go back and make a change, it's more money for them. So I want to make sure that that's clear. They're not going to be tenants. We're not continuing to own the house afterwards. They would be homeowners. So a couple of things. It just seems to be a lot of the talk was about two driveways. We're not here for because two driveways is an issue. And that keeps getting brought up as an argument against this because it's two driveways. That's not what we're asking for permission for, is necessarily for two driveways, because we're allowed to have two driveways already. And to be honest, there's correspondence from the past when we went through this before, that first gentleman that stood up here was fine with 2 houses going there before, but now he's not fine with 2 driveways going there. So, but again, we're not here for 2 driveways. We're here for the actual variances that we're requesting, because we can have those without the variances, 2 driveways. We also, another reason why we're here today is because there was opposition to the driveway being on East Dunstable. When that, I hear like a lot of legal things about we're legally this, legally that. We're fine to put a driveway on East Dunstable. Like you just said, we can do 12 and 12. So we're trying to work with people. The other thing, sorry, I should have started with this. I get back to the question that you had asked about if we could move the house over. There was a misunderstanding, because it's a corner lot, I believe, by our architect, thinking that we had to be at least 25 feet off that side setback. If we can only be 10 feet, which I think is what it sounds like where we're really at, then they are fine with moving the house back, and we could, to the left, I should say, and that would avoid that other variance. I don't know how that works in terms of standing here, because we're going after that variance, but we don't need to have that variance, if that's the case. But I don't want to, for some reason, it was thought that it couldn't go that close to the side setback, the 10 feet. If that's the case, then we can be 10 feet off, and that gives us our 26.3, and we already have 26.1. That gives us more than 50 feet. It would avoid that variance, and it takes it off the table completely. And we're good with that.
One moment, Ms. Forsy. Mr. Falk, could you respond, please?
Sure. Okay, the existing driveway, the proposed 12-foot driveway is 26.1 feet from the intersection. It needs to be 50. The other side of the house shows from the property line to the proposed house at 36.3 feet. That setback over there only needs to be 10 feet. It's a side yard. So there's 26.3 feet that the house could move over. They only need to move over 5 or 6 feet. And then the house would meet all the setbacks, front and sides, and the driveway variance for 50 feet to the intersection would not be needed.
Okay, then that begs this question. If this was obviously to happen, and that is what the applicant was questioning, would they then need to come back again to this board?
No, Madam Chair. It would not be an additional request. As a matter of fact, it's making one request go away. So if anything, it's they're going from 2 variances to 1. They would still need the variance for the 36 overall feet of width, but they wouldn't need the variance for the driveway within 50 feet of the intersection.
Okay, so they would need the 24 Burnett, 12 East Dunstable.
24
Or
on
just-
Burnett and 12 on Burnett.
Okay.
All it would do,
Because
all
they
the
would
house would
move-
do, the house would just shift over towards the north. It would still meet all the setbacks. The exact house would just shift over on the lot about 22 or so feet, and they would not need that variance to encroach within that 50 feet intersection.
Thank you very much for that clarification. I'm
So-
sorry I interrupted. Go ahead.
No. I know that's a big thing. It's a big change, I guess. So it just in terms of overall width then, because that's what we're here for, is to get more than the 24. I know that we can easily say that some people were talking when the entrances into driveways, the curb cut is smaller than, or 24 feet or smaller. Being that this is a corner lot and the way that the house would be situated, we can't fan out at all. And I do feel that that is a hardship. The first gentleman that stood up here said a single-family home does not need 36 feet of driveway width. Meanwhile, when you get on his driveway, it's narrow. When it gets down towards his house, it's 50 feet wide. So that's a single-family house. Many houses over there, when they fan out, it goes to 50 feet or more. We don't have that option. There's no way to do that. So it means that you have a 2-car garage with people trying to do this. Or trying to, not even, I don't know actually how to do it, because you can't fan, so that's why we're asking for the additional, because if we could fit more cars in that garage, I guess, and then it could fan out at some point, but there's no option to do that, so I don't really know another way to make that part work. So that's to that point. I guess the hardship issue, I feel like it kind of goes to, some of it has to do with personal beliefs, like it being a corner lot, I do think that it makes it a hardship. I think sizes of houses were different when houses were built further back. Some of those houses are older there. I mean, I think we're just saying the idea of the 2 driveway thing again keeps coming up, saying that some of those are illegal. I don't know if they're illegal or not. I guess we'd have to go and research that. I can't argue to all that. I can just say that, you know, I don't think it's unreasonable what they're asking for, or at all. I don't think it's going against the spirit of the ordinance. I think it's in line with the other properties that are there. So.
And I'm going to look at your time, but based on, and this is my question to you, based on what Mr. Falk had to say, and based on your comment that said if you had the option or the ability to move, to shift that house, you would take that ability, that would remove the variance.
Yes.
Does what Mr. Falk say have any bearing now on what's going to happen to the way or the placement of that house? Because then it would make the one variance go away.
No, and that's what I think that the confusion came, for some reason, someone along the way on our end did not understand that it could be as close as 10 feet on that left side of the house.
And based on what?
Based on now what we know,
10
yes,
feet.
it can be, and that's perfect for us, that we can shift the whole house and eliminate that other variance.
So
Yes.
then your statement to this board, I want the board to have clear and concise understanding that you are stating that now, understanding you have the ability to shift, you are going to take that ability. Is that or is that not correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Is there any other clarification that this board would like? And I don't see any hands. Whoops, I'm sorry, Mr. Shaw.
I want to ask one more thing, just, and this is kind of in the danger of something this board tries not to do, and it's the whole idea of designing things, and I don't want to be saying what you should or shouldn't consider, but, I mean, I'm looking at things and wondering also about a further compromise, and it's also quite possible this board might not approve either variance, and you might just simply have to deal with moving the house, doing the 2 12-foot driveways, and that's where you're limited. But because of the nature of kind of like the U-shaped design, if you will, of the way the house is right now, where there's a kind of the front, kind of reaching part of things, and you said, you're pretty much like at the setback, so you can't fan out the driveway. I mean, just basically something that I'm wondering about is doing a 12-foot driveway, having where the 2-car garage is proposed right now, having that not set as close to the front setback. You realize you can't fully accomplish a fan out and practically enter a 2-car wide garage by only fanning out once you're 25 feet back, and you're talking about like a 10-foot area. But I'm wondering about something like, would you be open to, and I even feel like this is tricky because of the way we have to approve things based on, but like I know I would feel a lot more comfortable if I were to see something like a 12-foot driveway that at least goes 10 foot back and then fans out. So it would still have to have approval for the 24-foot wide because of the way, just the lay of the land, the property setback, the setback, et cetera. But it's just something that I don't know if it would have been considered just as you looked at things, and because, so I throw that out there. It's, and I don't know how the board would feel, and it's a little bit tricky because, again, because of what we prove based on things, but if there was we could have a stipulation of some sort, perhaps, that said the driveway would only be able to fan out after the first X number of feet.
So I guess I'm not sure, because I'm not the one who does these drawings, so I don't know at what point is a comfortable, and I don't know if I could speak to that at all.
I'm winging it here too, so. It might not even be practical.
I just don't know how length of the driveway wise, I don't know how that would typically work, I guess.
Mr. Minkara?
I don't want to cut off your point.
No, I don't think I have much else to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just really want to go back to the prior point, just for clarity. Are we understanding that the variance request for the 50 feet is being withdrawn and we don't have to consider it? I'm looking at
Mr.
Carter.
Falk?
I'm looking at the applicant.
If the applicant does agree to withdraw that one,
Yeah, I mean, I know we understood that you were willing to move it. Are you saying that you will withdraw that variance request?
Yeah, I mean, we're not trying to just get what we want and that's it. We're trying to make it work. So yes, if that can help us get to a solution, absolutely. We're not trying to, throw something in here that all the neighbors will hate. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. That
Yes.
just means that we won't have to act on that.
Yeah.
So I just wanted clarity on that.
Thank you. And seeing as there's no more questions, thank you. And now, one and only one person can come up based on everything that's been stated. And again, sir, please state your name and address for the record, and you have 5 minutes.
Hi, it's David Campbell, 10 East Dunstable Road. Before you start my time, though, please, I'll make a clarification, if I could. So are two
Oh,
Not on the mic.
I'm sorry,
Mr.
are
Campbell.
two driveway cuts allowed?
yep,
Two driveway cuts are allowed as long as they're under 24 feet?
that's
Okay.
correct.
But
There's
they can't exceed,
numerous,
but
if
that's what we wanted to know about back. So two cuts can happen as long as they don't exceed 24 feet?
That's correct.
Okay.
There are hundreds, if not thousands, of properties, single-family, that have two driveways, or a corner lot that has like an eyebrow-shaped driveway. They're all over the city.
So again, just to clarify, the first variance is only looking for exceeding the 24 feet.
Right.
The second one is within the 50 feet of this intersection.
Right, and if the
Thank you
applicant,
for that.
the applicant has agreed to move the house over, so they wouldn't need that.
I understand
variance.
that. Okay, thank you. Madam Chair, David Campbell, 10 East Dunstable Road. There are a lot of two driveways in Nashua. In our immediate neighborhood, there really aren't many, as you can see from that piece of paper. And you can see that, the character of the neighborhood is going to be altered by what looks like to be sideways from East Dunstable Road, a two-family dwelling. There is, and if it is going to be a supplemental dwelling unit or accessory dwelling unit at some time, your supplemental land use regs under B says no curb cut from the street shall be constructed in order to put in an accessory dwelling unit. So I just find that kind of interesting. This may be kind of being backdoored is all I'm suggesting. You put in the two cuts, and then, but it says in your regulations that you can't put in a 750-foot accessory unit unless, and no new curb cut shall be constructed in order to do that.
That's correct, but the applicant is not applying for an accessory dwelling unit.
I just suggest to the board it may be being done in reverse order. But again, a lot of the two driveway cuts that are there predate the zoning, and certainly there's no need, and I think hopefully the testimony tonight bears that out, for any single-family unit, and this is a single-family unit in Nashua, to have more than 24-foot worth of driveway cuts. And I think that's something that no hardship could be argued, considering that it's a rectangular lot, regular shaped. As I say, it's a blank piece of canvas. I guess that's it.
Are there any questions? Mr. Shaw?
It's more feedback for you. And I think you know, we're a quasi-judicial body, and we take all testimony to be essentially truthful and direct. And I expressed that concern about a possible ADU, and the applicant noted what truly is going on with the family situation. They're not doing a second kitchen. And yes, they perhaps could at some point decide to come back and things change and maybe wall that off and apply for the special exception for an ADU. And this board would have to look at all things. But we don't judge on what somebody's intent might be or that they might want to do something like that. So I appreciate your concern, but it's not something we would weigh in on. And my questioning early on was to establish and make sure I understood that they were not doing an ADU. And they're doing something close to it, but you know, many people have situations where they do have, you know, aging or other, you know, members of maybe with other disabilities that they're trying to take care of. So I just want to note for you and for the audience that watches us that that's something that we can't consider what somebody's future intent might be or that they're trying to backdoor a request, so.
And I appreciate that, I really do. But I also want to say that the neighbors, all we can do is rely on the zoning laws of this town and the plans that we've been given, 2 different plans. And this plan raised our concerns. We bring them up. We have trouble even thinking, you know, going beyond what the land use is and going into what the intended use of the owner is. We don't even go to that point. So I understand what you're saying, very much so. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? I don't see any hands up on Zoom. Okay, seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing and open the public meeting. Mr. Boucher.
So I definitely had some concerns with the second driveway in Dunstable, and obviously the applicant came back with an application. I think that notwithstanding, you know, the opinions that we've heard, and again, I heard them all, the design of the house is what's in front of us. I don't know how much, you know, we understand what's going on there, how it's going to be used, how it's going to be lived in. We have plans. That the lot itself, again, it's a corner lot, and it's not an extremely deep lot. So I looked at the driveway width as, again, I thought about the same thing you thought about, Mr. Shaw. But again, you know, there's only 20-something feet, 25 feet to the garage. That's basically a small car. You might probably 2 cars in there, but you know, an average-sized car, it's really only 1 car there. So I also thought about the fact, again, with our experience and what we see, is that if this was really just, you know, it's being proposed as a single-family home, but if we had a couple there with a couple of kids that are driving, there'd be an issue with parking. All right, so we could see, or you know, it could be very plausible that we would see a request for a widened driveway, as we've seen for other properties for different reasons. And again, I don't use those other properties as an excuse for this, but we've seen homes that are not too deep in, that don't have the ability to go deeper in, and so kind of the option is really to go with. So in general, my feeling is, with removing the variance for the 50-foot ask, less than 50 feet, I'm in favor of the expanded 36-foot wide driveway request. Now, I don't, you know, right now I'm not sure whether or not that gets split up or if that's just one wide driveway, but I can see the need for that, regardless of what the living situation is, or what the design of the home is at this point, because of what we have in front of us. So I'll just stick with that.
Excuse me, Mr. Boucher, could you speak a little closer to the microphone? It's phasing out here.
Sorry-
Thank you so
sorry
much.
about that. So I'll just open that.
Thank you, Mr. Boucher. Mr. Minkara.
So I'm still struggling with this, but I'm pleased to see that we're only acting on one variance, because I absolutely had a problem with a driveway being located that close to what I do think is a dangerous intersection, and I think we had testimony to that. So with that off the table, then I look at what's proposed, which is, 3 garage bays. And it is possible, perhaps, that, maybe one could argue that you don't need 3 garage bays, but I ask myself, would I consider having a 3-car garage unreasonable? No. Is it absolutely necessary? Maybe not. But I think we've seen plenty of 3-car garages, and interest in a parking space for 3. So I don't feel that having a 3-car garage in itself or 3 garage bays is unreasonable. Looking at the positioning of the house, it may be possible that the house could be redesigned. I don't know. I can't redesign it. I don't want to redesign it. It's not my job. When I'm looking at the size of the house overall, it's a 1-story house. Its footprint is larger for that reason, but it's not particularly large house. It's not an unusually sized house. So just kind of walking myself through it, given the way it's situated on the lot, given the setbacks, at least for the building that's proposed, for the house that's proposed, putting a 3-car garage in, you could not possibly get the flare necessary to avoid a variance somehow. So some level of relief, I think, would be necessary in order to have a 3-car garage regardless. Again, is it possible that the home could be redesigned in a way that could minimize that? Maybe. I don't know. My guess is probably not enough to eliminate the variance. Could it be less? Perhaps. Could it be 34 feet instead of 36 feet? Could it be, 29 feet? I don't know. But once again, we're being asked to vote on what's in front of us. So I think for those reasons, they're allowed 2 driveways. So the issue isn't whether there's 1 driveway or 2. Does it look more like a 2-family house? Yes, it does. That's a design issue. Do I look at this and think, golly, that's set up to be an ADU? Yes, I do. But again, it's not from my place to suppose what the future intent would be. We're looking at the plan in front of us. So for that kind of complicated set of reasons, I do find support for the application.
Thank you. Mr. Shaw.
I guess I'm still struggling. And, I was just trying to think through a little bit more to your, I think pretty much your last point there. And I think if the homeowner wasn't trying to do essentially 2 separated garages, and again, I'll just delve into a little bit of like what could possibly be done from a design perspective. I think the house could stay more or less the way it's proposed, but you don't have a garage and a driveway at that end, and you avoid the whole closeness to the intersection. But you could set probably a 3-bay garage at the back corner of the property and come in with a 24-foot wide driveway and flare out in a way that could easily accommodate that. So I feel like when I kind of go, is there a way that this could be some other feasible mean? I kind of think maybe there is. And I was also trying to think about like, well, it's one point, okay, it's a short driveway to the house because of the setback, or at least the definition of the width of the driveway. And that's we kind of could go a little bit with, like, there is a bit of the inherent hardship with the land of it being a corner lot and having this extra burden of 2 frontages. And we've kind of strongly urged from a safety perspective, please, try to avoid doing a driveway onto East Dunstable, yet they're being kind of forced to meet setbacks consistent with East Dunstable, but you're also now, because you were saying, yeah, please don't put that driveway even at the intersection. So all the driveways need to be, kind of not on East Dunstable and 50 feet down Burnett Street, right? So we're kind of saying, from a safety perspective, at the same time, I'm going, yeah, there's the parking thing you can say, but, if somebody puts a 2-car garage in and they've got a driveway that can also accommodate 2 cars, that's 4 cars for a single-family home. That's pretty reasonable. I mean, but some single-family homes have more than 4 cars. So I guess I'm struggling with it, and I feel like it's on the edge of things. I definitely would not have been in support of the driveway being within that intersection, 50 foot, so I'm glad there's a way past that. I just don't know if 2 12-foot wide driveways should still be sufficient to accomplish what the homeowner wants to do. So I'm still want to hear what my colleagues have to say, but that's kind of where I'm at the moment. I'm not sure I can support this.
Thank you. Mr. Courier?
Well, I'm struggling a bit with this. A couple thoughts. I'm certainly pleased the 50-foot is off the table, because that was a negative surprise, and I was struggling with that. I guess just like to say, some of the testimony we've heard tonight is, I would say, stronger than the testimony we've heard before. And there have been times where there have been, in my opinion, weak or almost non-existent land hardships in which a homeowner has wanted to do something with a variance, and it didn't seem to be a problem to me. It certainly wasn't a problem to any abutters, and I've approved it. But when there's a variance request that I struggle with the hardship on, to find hardship, and it's, say, problematic to me or to folks who live close by, that catches my attention. And to me, Mr. Coots's testimony is both timely and gets traction with me. And my sense is you could accomplish a 3-car. I'm feeling like the house was designed, and I appreciate the folks wanting to take care of their aunt. I feel like the house was perfectly designed for them, and then it was looked at, well, now what? Now we need variances. I'm just wondering if the land use needs were taken into consideration with the design, could we not have a design that has a 3-bay garage that meets all the criteria? My sense is, I think it could. So I'm struggling with the application now, but that's where I'm at, and I'm looking forward to hearing other testimony.
Thank you. Ms. Boras?
I'm also struggling with the application. I hear everything that my colleagues have brought forth, and the opposition as well. I'm more in favor than not, but I'm still struggling with it.
Thank you. Mr. Neely?
So this applicant has come before us 2 meetings in a row. And a big part of our conversation last time was our concerns about the perceived danger of East Dunstable Road. I will share with you, on Sunday, I was in that area and I was being tailgated as I drove down East Dunstable Road right there. It's a relatively dangerous road. I think we were all heartened by the fact that when we walked out of the last meeting, having tabled this, that the applicant was going to take another look at that to potentially take this driveway off East Dunstable. And they came back with a plan, and I get some folks have pushed back on this, and I understand, it's still a dangerous intersection. I'm still concerned about one of the members of the family pulling out of that driveway within a few feet of that intersection. The applicant tonight, through this discussion, has agreed to move that house, 30 feet further down the road, 25 feet further down the road. I think that says a lot to their commitment to get this built, to work with the family, and to address our safety concerns, because there really were safety concerns. You know, when we first saw this application, like most of you, I was thinking ADU. You know, it really screams ADU, and I get it, but they have not applied for an ADU. We can't consider that part of the application. We heard some testimony tonight that there are approximately 9 houses in the general area that have 2 driveways, with somebody else saying that they may be illegal. We can't consider that they might be illegal. You know, that's not part of the testimony. We're not going to go dig into the records tonight to figure out who has a legal driveway and who doesn't, but it is within character of the general neighborhood. There is no room, really, in my opinion, to fan out those driveways. You're close. You're on a corner lot. There's not a lot of room to give. You know, I drive an SUV. You need some room to move when you're coming out of these garages. You know, even if we made smaller curb cuts there, there's not enough room, in my opinion, to have, you know, 2 or 3 cars trying to get out of there and make turns safely with the size of the vehicles today. And obviously, we don't know the size of the applicant's vehicles, but, you know, we need to think about the size of an SUV. Single-family houses are in character to this neighborhood. While I agree that it does not particularly look like a single-family home, it is a single-family home, and it does fit into the character of this neighborhood. It is important that we stick to the facts here and not the you know, the could-bes that may happen in the future. It might be an ADU. You know, I believe that there are extenuating factors here. I applaud the applicant for what they're trying to do to take care of a family member. So for those reasons, I am in favor of this application.
Thank you, Mr. Neely. And myself, I concur with a lot of the testimony that you've all just given. The applicant has come back and did listen to our concerns about safety and East Dunstable Road and made the concession. And then when they learned that they could move the house and eliminate the need for the variance that was causing the most consternation, they again made a concession and said, we will shift it. We can't develop, design, or plan their property. They get that right to do that. That's their constitutional right. And so we go with that. SUV, what about a truck? You know, that's even bigger. That's going to need to turn around and going to need to come in and out of a driveway. And we don't know if there would be other family members, children, and we just don't know. We can't make decisions based, I think, on what if, supposition, or maybe. We have to do what we have to do here. We were told at the last meeting that should the driveway be moved off East Dunstable and 2 driveways put on Burnett Street, we would see no opposition. But we did, again, see that. And that was the testimony that was given in the last hearing, when this case came up. And so there are reasons for people to want this and not want this. And I understand both sides of this. But I think what I'm hearing the loudest is these people have made numerous concessions. And what they're trying to do is support a family member who they know going down the road, no matter what, aging in place, you're still aging, and people need support. I truly understand that. And so for those reasons, and for the reasons that this just seems to be at this point, A, what they want, what they need, what they have a right to, I support this application. And I am really in awe of people who would constantly come back and constantly make concessions to appease the neighbors as best as they could. That tells me a lot about the firm and about the people. And so for those reasons, I am in favor of this application. And so Would somebody care to make a motion? Mr.
right.
Minkara.
I will make a motion to approve, to move my glasses, the variance for East Dunstable Properties LLC. Owner, John Forcier, applicant, 7 East Dunstable Road. It's sheet 109, lot 76, requesting actually only one variance at this point from Land Use Code Section 19017E1 to exceed the maximum driveway width, 24 feet permitted, 36 feet requested for 2 driveways on Burnett Street, one at 24 feet wide and the other at 12 feet wide. We believe that this variance is needed to enable the applicant's proposed use of the property, given special conditions of the property. Those special conditions being primarily the narrow width of the property and the difficulty in building proposed home, given within that setback. The desire to have, the reasonable desire, I think the proposed use for 3 garage bays is a reasonable use, and it's not possible to achieve that without the variance that is requested. We do believe it's within the spirit and the intent of the ordinance to allow for a reasonable use of the property, and again, believe that the use proposed is reasonable. We do not believe it will adversely affect surrounding property values. We have had testimony that it may, but we have no evidence that it might, and I think we do have testimony that shows that there are multiple properties in the area that do in fact have 2 driveways. We do not believe that it would be contrary to the public interest to allow for the reasonable use of the proposed property, and believe that substantial justice would be done. So for those reasons, I support the variance requested.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Boucher, for your second. Mr. Boucher, how do you vote?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
Thank you. Mr. Minkara, how do you vote?
Mr. Minkara votes in favor.
Mr. Shaw, how do you vote?
Mr. Shaw votes not in favor.
Mr. Courier, how do you vote?
Mr. Courier votes not in favor.
And myself, Mary Ellen McKay, I vote in favor. So that is 3 affirmative votes. Congratulations, your variance has been granted. As we have stated in prior meetings, anyone has the right to appeal any decision that this board makes, should you, and they have 30 days with which to do so. Since we want to thank you for your application, and should you have any questions, comments, concerns, please re-refer back to either Mr. Carter Falk or Ms. Kate Poirier in the planning department, and they will assist you. Again, thank you and congratulations. Your variance has been granted. Okay, moving on. We have no motions for a rehearing. We have gotten the agenda for the upcoming meeting. Does anybody see any regional impact?
I do not.
Mr. Courier sees no regional impact.
I do not.
And none of us. Okay, no regional impact. We do have minutes.
Excuse me, could you please take the conversation outside? The audio it really carries in this auditorium. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any edits or adjustments to our previous minutes? Mr. Shaw?
One typo in the listing for case 1 where it says fence height, and there's an extra numeral 3 character in there.
Where are you?
At the bottom of the first page, and the bold print for case 1.
Yeah, I
Where it
see.
says maximum fence height, there's just an extra
Yeah,
numeral
it
3
says
in there.
AG3 IGHT. Yep, I got it.
unless somebody's trying to get clever with using that, like a reverse E.
Yeah, well.
And the only other thing is even more minor, and I don't think it really matters that much, but I thought I was the one that actually did the motion to adjourn, but it's listed Mr. Currier was. But if he was, that's fine, or if not, I don't see any need to necessarily change it, but, and I couldn't remember for sure, but if Mr. Currier said, yeah, I did not do that, then,
As long as you didn't have a conflict.
yeah, I don't think it's a, I don't think it's that.
I don't have precise recollection.
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
we both might have said move to adjourn for that matter.
be that as it may, we did adjourn. Okay, so, any other edits? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as amended. And Mr. Neely, thank you for your second. Mr. Neely, how do you vote?
Mr. Neely votes in favor.
And Mr. Boucher?
Mr. Boucher votes in favor.
And Mr. Shaw?
Mr. Shaw votes in favor.
And Mr. Courier?
Mr. Courier votes in favor.
And myself, Mary Ellen McKay, I also vote in favor, so that is 5-0. And so there is no other conversation. It is, I don't think, if there are any other discussions to be had, it is 8:06 PM, and I would like to make a motion to adjourn. And thank you, Mr. Neely, for seconding that. I don't think we need to take a vote on adjourning. I think we're done.
Have a good night, everyone.
Thanks,
Good
Jeff.
night.
Good
Have fun.
Recording stopped.